All right, here we are. And hey, like I'm just talking about right now in this environment and our economy in 2025, getting close to the end of 2025 and going into 2026. What's a wise choice? For people who are looking at the housing market, right? Everybody's really looking at the housing market right now like it's a doomsday scenario because, a lot of people are frozen in place. They can't just easily sell their homes right now. Prices are maybe cooling down, interest rates are high, and people are either locked in at a lower rate, and or they don't want to refinance, and end up with a high rate. So, a lot of people are just kind of staying cool. It's not exactly a super friendly market for a buyer, right? It's not really super friendly for either one, to be honest. But it is a good time to possibly buy smart. If you are looking at the housing market right now, I would be maybe considering, because I know a lot of people like the idea of a new build, a new home, new construction, new neighborhood, and everything like that. But maybe consider looking at something in an older territory or an older neighborhood, right? Something that is established, right? There's several different benefits to that. I mean, you think about it, older homes aren't being looked at as much. They're not being advertised as much, right? So more likely to possibly be able to get a steal, right? And some kind of better deal. And I'm not saying to buy recklessly. I'm saying to have a full inspection and do your own inspection. And, of course, your foundation and everything like that. The construction of your building. Make sure it's not going lopsided or something like that. And, make sure it's in reasonably good condition. But you can add upgrades to it. Think about it. If you add even just a reasonably modest upgrade, and you redo the kitchen or something like that, you could add an extra, $20,000 or $50,000 in equity to that home where you got on a good deal. So you can do that over time, right? You can gradually upgrade the home and fix up some stuff, and that can be some character to it. You say, hey, look, I did this work, or I had this work done while I was here according to my design. And you can do that a little bit more. It's a little more flexible. Think about it, you get a new build, oftentimes you're just getting the basic blueprint. And, there might be some other homes look at just like it. An older home, you're more likely to get something unique, right? Maybe have some unique add-on or something from a certain era that might be unique about it. There's all these different reasons why you might want to look at some of the older homes that you might have just totally disregarded or not even thought about going to look at because you think, oh, there's an older neighborhood. And then also the benefits of just being in an established neighborhood where you do have local amenities. Think about when you start with new construction, a lot of times you're in the middle of a field. You still have to go a good distance to town just to get the goods you need and so forth. Unless you're having delivery, of course, that's certainly always an option. But I'm just saying, right, the benefits of being in a community that's somewhat established and being able to grow into that community, right? Instead of just, kind of a bunch of total strangers from maybe, different parts of the country. Who knows? I'm not saying that that's bad, but you get the idea. You kind of get to grow to know a community of people that already in many ways know each other. There might be some benefits to that for you, right? There's already maybe, there's maybe, I don't know, whatever environment you're looking for. Maybe you're looking for the best schools for your child. Maybe you're looking for a more outdoorsy environment. You're looking for something a little more rural. But, if you're looking rural, obviously you do kind of have to look for some advertised, something's being advertised a bit more. But if you're looking in the basic neighborhoods that are more suburban, you probably can go out there and find home. You can be knock doors if you were going to be that aggressive to find people who are looking to sell their home, right? Maybe distressed or really want to get out of their mortgage note for some reason. They don't have the even wherewithal to start trying to sell themselves, right? Maybe you can pick something up like that. There's all kinds of different, possibilities. But, I'm just saying, if you think about it, older homes aren't being looked at as much by many people. Overlooking them, right? Looking at all these new construction and so forth, which might sound appealing. But, if you get a home that's like brand new, you're going to be paying the top dollar, and you're not going to really be able to do much to it in many cases. Right? It's probably you have an HOA. They'd be telling you what color the side of your home or mailbox has to be, stuff like that. And I'm not saying that that's totally bad. Maybe you want to have, an HOA or something, but maybe it's not for everybody. Or you want to make sure you take all those things into account, right? And it's a myth that you need to buy your home new, right? Or that right now, like like I said, you don't want to buy recklessly. You want to buy a decent property that has some potential to still gain value, right? The neighborhood's not going to total trash, and there's jobs in the area, and there's not like doing a lot of pollution, stuff like that, that you think that over time it will likely appreciate. Because the most important part really is the land, right? Number one, the home itself. Yeah, like if you're paying for a new home, that's great because everything's ready to go. Ideally, at the same time, you can have a lot of problems with that, right? You can still have problems. But if you go into an older home, a lot of the times, it's just there's a benefit sometimes to getting a used item because it's been reliable for some time already, right? And you might have to do some repairs, like I say, but you can do them one at a time, and you might get the home for a bit of a lower price. Just it depends, right? And but like I say, keep in mind if you add renovation to an older home or something like that, it's probably going to add a bit more value to that home, and that gives you some equity in the future. And maybe the rates come back down again or something like that at some point, but I think it's probably gonna be a little while before that happens. But if you get a decent lot, you'll always have that equity, right? Regardless of the home, right? That's the one thing that really is going to maintain the most value. So I'm just interested in your opinion. What do you think people should be doing to navigate this housing market better, as especially as the buyers? Obviously, sellers are always trying to make money and sell their homes or whatever it is. And I wish them the best of luck. But I'm just saying, for buyers, people that are looking to buy a home, what would you say they should be looking at? What kind of markets should we be, suggesting and looking at? I think that a lot of people think, oh, if I buy a rural, I might get something more affordable. And yeah, that's true in many respects. But oftentimes, just because it's rural, that might actually be the appeal to it, right? Especially if it's a nice place, it's a nice property, right? So, you might want to take that into account, right? Really, the market you're in, the state you're in, just makes a pretty big difference in a lot of cases. If you're in like New Mexico compared to a place like, California, it'd probably be like night and day, your housing market. In California, you might be lucky to find something for $500,000 or $1 million even. Some parts like that. New Mexico or Texas, parts of Texas, you still have to find, house properties, single-family home properties, as little as like $200,000 or even less for some. It depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for something that's just kind of a real good fixer-upper, it's pretty small. Maybe you want something that's kind of cozy, something like that. You don't necessarily need something that's huge, because you got to take that into account as well. What are the expenses and the bills going to be with my new home? Am I going to have to pay, gas and electric, or am I going to? How about hot water, fresh, clean water, stuff like that? What are the bills that are going to come along with that home? And especially, really think about it, the heating and the cooling of that home, right? Is it well insulated, right? That's a big deal, right? Insulation and ventilation of that home. Is it well is it climatized in that respect, naturally even, right? So you don't necessarily have to use so much AC or heat, right? That's a big deal. But think about it, a lot of the stuff is probably going to be better quality in many cases. Like it has stood the test of time already, but we all know that in many cases older homes are built better with higher quality parts, and maybe bigger wood studs, or more placements of wood studs, framing, then maybe the drywall is thicker. I don't know about all those details. I'm just saying, a lot of the home builds that we see out there today can be somewhat cheap in a certain respect, right? It's easy to put a hole in the wall, right? Stuff like that. And then a lot of times, if you're remodeling or something like that, you might feel out of place in a new neighborhood. Maybe you want to do something unique with your home that in the new neighborhood, it just wouldn't make a lot of sense for some reason, right? So there's just a few of my ideas. Let me know what you think. Maybe you're like a realtor, or maybe you've just bought or sold a home, or you're in the market right now to buy or sell, and you noticed some certain trends happening right now, and maybe into the next few years from this video, maybe you haven't watched it a couple of years from now, and the market's changed. How did you notice that it's changed? Is it going to cool off? Are buyers going to have a better opportunity? Or is the economy taking a permanent downturn some way? Are we going through a long-term recession? Or will profits return and people will invest again? and, you know, bring back some prosperity to the housing market, where realtors are out there making, you know, good money, which, you know, and I would say that's a sign of a pretty vibrant market for the most part. Not in every case, right? It can be convoluted, and but yeah, those are just my thoughts on it right now. Why it's maybe possibly a better idea to look at older homes more than ever right now than it has been, and you know, the charm, right? Think about the character and the charm of an older home. Right, let me know what you think. Maybe in the meantime, check out another video. If you see another video at the end of this video, check out another one and come back and see me. All right, look forward to seeing you in the next video.